Test is a reliable to the extent that what it measures with consistency. To our dear Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romela M. Cruz, CESO 6, Officer in Charge, Office of the Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Aurelio G. Alfonso, SESE, our Regional EPS in Mathematics, Mrs. Bernadette Sideran, Chief Education Supervisor of the Curriculum and Implementation Division, Dr. Aline G. Mendoza, our Chief Education Supervisor for the School Governance and Operations Division, Mrs. Emma G. Arubio, to our Educational Program Supervisors, Public Schools District Supervisors, and to all our SDO officials and school heads, and of course, to our dear teachers who are here with us today while keeping another gadget engaged with their classes. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar entitled Amplifying the Development of Assessment and Performance Task Skills, or ADAPTS 2022, with the theme Capability Building on the Development of Assessment Tools. I am Dorothy Grace Reyes, and it's great to have you here with us early this morning. I hope you're ready for a fruitful day filled with information and insights. As teachers, it is important that we keep abreast to the new information as we take on the challenges of the education that we are facing currently. To formally begin, everybody is requested to give respect to our nation as we sing our national anthem, to be followed by a prayer.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Sayang magiliw, nasasiranan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y bukay. Lupang binirang, kaya ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulakawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Isang lang matawag mo'y tagumpay na nagtitindig, ang pituwin at parang niya kailan ang may magtitindig. Lumanang araw ng warapit pagsingka, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya na pangay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
All right. So again, good morning, everyone, and to keep your attendance or to get or to take your attendance, the link is shared with us here at below at the screen. kindly go to this link and have your attendance checked. All right. So we know how important your time is, especially on a Monday morning. So without further ado, to move on to the session proper of our program, allow me to introduce our speaker who will talk about structure of observed learning outcomes or solo framework in the development of assessment materials. We asked her for her bio note, but very simply she told me that it is her talk is more important. So, ladies and gentlemen, our regional EPS in mathematics for NCR, Mrs. Bernadette C. Daran. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning! Good morning, everybody. Hello, magandang umaga po sa lahat. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you. And I would like also to thank Sir Resty for inviting me this morning. Hindi ko mahindian yan si Sir Resty, kaya kahit may activity ako sa central office, sabi ko, sige lang, push. Sabi ko, hindi ako, nag-beg off talaga ako sa central. Sabi ko, hindi po pwede kasi po meron po akong talk sa Mandaluyong. Well, anyway, again, thank you din po pala kay SDS, kay Ma'am Romela Cruz, kay CID Chief po ng Mandaluyong. Magandang umaga po sa lahat and I hope nakikita po ba yung aking screen? Ma'am Dorothy, kita po ba?
Yes, ma'am, very visible.
Ayun. Alright, okay, sige. Alright, so I'm tasked this morning to talk about solo framework in the development of assessment materials. Okay, but as you will see later, hindi lang tayo magfo-focus sa assessment. Okay, when it comes to solo. Oh, by the way, I love the date today. Today is February 28, 2022. No, this is the last palindrome date ngayong February. Of course, marami pang mga darating na palindrome date ditong 2022. Okay, but this is the last palindrome date in February. Okay, so this is the outline of my talk for this morning. First one is we're going to talk about solo taxonomy. For those who are not familiar with solo taxonomy, so I guess it would be better if you will intently listen to this part. Okay, the second one is designing assessments using solo. And the last one would be applying solo in the classroom. So tatlong major topics lang yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon. All right. Okay, but before that, I would like you to go to slido.com. This is the code. Can someone type it in our chat box? The link, the slido.com, and then the code that they will be using. That is 987742. Yan. So, punta po muna kayo dyan. Alright, please, there's going to be one question lang na sasagutan kayo dyan. Only one question. Okay? And I will give you 1 minute to answer the question. So, please answer immediately. Seryoso, 1 minute lang. Okay? So, please answer immediately. Whatever comes to your mind, sagot nyo na po ayun agad. Okay? Now, let me just share my screen about Slido. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, ayan na may mga nagsasagot na. Ayan. So the first question is ang tanging question natin is what is football? Ano yung football? Okay? Sige po. Sagot na po. Game. Ayan. So alright. Sige po. Tingnan natin. Oops. Ano nangyari? Teka, nawala ako. So I will only give you 1 minute to answer this. Okay. Team game. Okay. Alright. Sige lang. Okay, so I will now lock voting. Tapos na po yung 1 minute natin. Ayan, okay. Now, babalikan ko po yan mamaya. Okay, at least nakakikuha tayo ng mga ilang sagot. Okay, so let me stop my sharing and go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. Alright. Ma'am Dorothy, nasa PowerPoint na po ba ulit ako?
Yes, ma'am. We are back
Alright.
to slide deck. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we should go back to your answers later. So let us first talk about what is solo taxonomy. Okay, but before we go to solo taxonomy, okay, what is taxonomy ba in education? Okay, ano to Educ 101 to di ba? This is usually the first topic sa mga teachers na nag-aral sa university. This is one of the educ na subjects na kinukuha natin. It's all about taxonomy. And how do we define taxonomy ba in education? Okay. Pwede pa silang mag-chat, ma'am? Hindi ko siya makikita, yung chat. Is there a way for me to see the chat? Yung mga sagot nila.
Facebook Live po, ma'am. Or,
Sa Facebook Live,
on your
okay.
StreamYard, meron po tayong comment sa gilid. So you could view that one as well.
Sa gilid, dito sa loob ng ano
No,
natin.
StreamYard, ma'am. On
Ng
your
StreamYard.
right.
Kaso I'm sharing my screen. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Oo, sir, Sir Resty, can you please share me the Facebook link para makatutok ako doon sa Facebook. Ang hirap ng ng online, Okay. Andiyan ba si Sir Resty? Sige. Okay. So, let's move on. Sige. Taxonomy. Ano ba yung taxonomy? Okay, taxonomy in education. Siyempre, may taxonomy kasi sa science. So, taxonomy in education is a set of carefully defined terms organized from simple to complex and for concrete to abstract. Okay? And it provides a framework of categories into which one may classify educational goals. Okay, so this is the official definition of taxonomy in education. So it's an organized, it's an organized, parang theories siya na framework actually. Okay, that talks about educational goals. Okay, so based on what we have learned in college o nung nag-aaral tayo sa eduk, okay, ano ba yung pinaka-common na taxonomy na alam natin? Sige nga, tingnan ko nga kung ano yung this is one of the oldest taxonomy in education. And sobrang gas-gas siya, sobrang pinag-uusapan talaga. And because napakadami niya kasi talagang applications in edu. Okay? Ano yung, wait, ayan, nag-feedback yung aking Wait lang. In edu. Okay? Ayan, nag-feedback yung aking Ayan, nandito na kasi ako sa YouTube. Okay, tingnan natin. Meron bang mga comments sa YouTube?
Hi, Ma'am Daran. Ayan. I think Sir Ray could help us by flashing the answers of our attendees on the screen.
Okay. So, babalik ako sa screen. Yan. Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, that is correct. Tama po. Okay? So, yung Bloom's taxonomy, ayan yung pinaka-common talaga na alam natin. Isa sa pinakamatandang taxonomy na ginagamit natin sa edu. Okay? And ngayon, we have another taxonomy. And that is solo taxonomy. So, para siyang Bloom's. Okay? So, ganun yung iisipin natin sa solo taxonomy. Para siyang Bloom's. Okay? So, solo, ang talagang niya ay structure of the observed learning outcome. Kaya siya naging solo. So solo taxonomy is a model of learning. Okay? It is a theory about teaching and learning. Okay? And then, ano pa? It began as an evidence-based model developed by Biggs and Collies in Australia in late 1970s. So si Biggs and Collies, sila yung mga Australiano to na mga theorists, okay? And mga 1970s to na develop. And from there, it's developed by analyzing the structure of student responses to assessment tasks in response to given body of information or knowledge, and identifying the type of thinking exhibited by extended written response. Okay? So speaking of student response, let us go back to your responses in Slido. Okay? Natin. Balik tayo sa Slido. Share ko na nga lang yung screen ko. Para hindi ako stop share. Alright. Okay, so ito yung mga sagot ninyo kanina sa Slido, no? Ang tanong natin, what is football? Game. What are the dimensions of the ball used in football? Biglang may tanong siya gano'n, ano? So it is a sport, a game, a team sport. Okay, football is a game played in North America. Oh, di ba? Okay, it's a ball game, a game ball, a game. Okay, so as you can see, based on your responses, we will be able to know which has more understanding, of the topic, no? Like this one, football is a game played in North America, o di ba? Meron siyang pa-trivia, no? So meron siyang meron siyang mga additional info. Okay? Unlike yung iba, game ball, a ball game, no? Although okay din to, team sport. Okay? So, meaning, meron siyang more understanding as compared doon sa mga nagsabi ng game. Kasi game is very broad. Okay? Yan. So, ganun yung ginawa nila Biggs and Collies. Okay. So, based on the responses of the students in a given body of information or knowledge, they were able to identify the type of thinking exhibited by the students or by the learners. Okay. And this solo taxonomy was introduced in New Zealand Ministry of Education cluster of primary and secondary schools in 2003. Okay? And since then, it has been widely used in schools across New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom. So until now, ginagamit nila ito. Okay? Mamaya, explain ko sa inyo kung paano nila ito ginagamit. Okay. So, Solo has 5 distinct levels of learning outcomes. Okay? 5 lang siya. Okay? Looking at your responses on Slido, can we identify from the responses the solo level of the participant based on the response? Okay? So, tingnan natin. Okay? So, the first one is pre-structural. Okay? This is the very basic or lowest level of solo. Okay? It says here that the learning outcomes show unconnected information and no organization. In other words, no idea talaga si learner. Wala siyang alam, hindi niya alam talaga. Pag sinabi natin nasa pre-structural level si learning, okay? So, hindi niya alam. Wala siyang alam. Okay? And then, ang symbol natin dyan ay ganon. Closed fist. Okay? And then the next level is the unistructural. Okay? Ang symbol natin dyan ay 1. Bakit 1? Because the learning outcomes show simple connections but importance is not noted. Meaning, what the learner knows is only one idea. Okay? So going back to your responses doon sa Slido, you only have one idea. Okay, about the football, and it is a game, right? Okay. Multistructural, our symbol natin dyan ay 3. Okay. Meaning, the learning outcomes show connections are made, but significance to overall meaning is missing. Okay? Meaning, maraming ideas na alam si learner, pero hindi niya alam kung paano yung interrelatedness ng mga ideas. How they are interrelated with one another. How they are connected with one another. So, yun yung multi-structural. So, maraming ideas, but not connected with one another. Okay? So, tulad dun sa Slido kanina, yung sagot ninyo, probably we can categorize yung nagsagot ng it is a sport originated from North America. Pwede yun kasi alam niya na it is a sport and it originated from North America. So, those are all two ideas. Okay? So, multi-structural siya. Alright. Then we have relational. Yan. Ang symbol naman natin dyan ay ganito, yung kamay. Okay? So, in relational, learning outcomes show connections are made and parts are synthesized with the overall meaning. Okay? So, in other words, hindi lang basta maraming ideas, but they now see the connections. Okay? How the ideas are related with one another. So, that is relational. And last but not the least, yung relational, iaangat natin yan. Okay? So, ang tawag natin dyan ay extended abstract. Okay? In the extended abstract, learning outcomes go beyond the subject and make links to other concepts. So, hindi na siya nakakulong doon sa idea, doon sa connections ng mga ideas, but now the learner can now extend it to other concepts and make link. Okay? So, kasama dito yung generalizing, predicting, and evaluating. So, extended na yung idea. That's why call it extended abstract. So, based dun sa mga sagot ninyo, doon sa slide, may kita natin, nandun lang siguro tayo sa multi-structural, no? Which is understandable. Ako nga, wala ako alam sa football eh. So, siguro mapunta yan sa relational if you know the rules, if you know how it's played, no? And extended abstract, you will see how countries are really into football, no? That may mga I don't know if you were able to see that film. I forgot the title of that film. No, na because of football, nakuha ni I think it's Nelson Mandela yung puso ng mga white Africans. No? Kasi ang alam natin yung African puro negro lang. Hindi, meron silang mga group ng mga mapuputi. No? So, makikita niyo yun, no? may ganung konsepto ang football, no? Na siya, political din. Okay? So, yun. So now, para mas maintindihan nyo to, let us look some examples of verbs that we align with each solo level. Okay? So ano ba yung mga verbs na inaano natin sa solo level? Okay? We can use these verbs to indicate what the student would need to be able to do to achieve an outcome at each level. Okay? So tingnan natin. So pre-structural, walang verbs. Kasi hindi pa nga alam ng bata kung ano yung topic, kung ano yung pinag-uusapan. No? So that's pre-structural. Okay? So unistructural. The usual verbs that we use there is define, identify, label, do simple procedure because again, in the unistructural, we are only talking about one idea. Okay? Then for multi-structural, the verbs that we use are describe, list, outline. Okay? So, ano na kasi, maraming ideas. So, we ask the students to list, to outline these ideas. Okay? So, relational, the verbs that we usually use is sequence, classify, explain, compare, contrast, analyze, relate, or apply. Okay? And then we have, for extended abstract, That is generalize, predict, evaluate, reflect, and then create. Okay? So these levels also represents no, two changes in the learning outcome. Okay? Ano yung mga two changes na yon in the learning outcome? A quantitative increase in understanding, that is about knowing more, moving from unistructural to multistructural outcomes. Okay, so yun yung quantitative. Bakit quantitative? Kasi dumadami yung alam na, no? From one idea to many idea, from unistructural to multistructural. Kaya siya naging quantitative. Okay, dumadami lang yung ideas niya. Okay? And then when we talk about now the relational to extended abstract, this phase, it's what we call the qualitative change in understanding. So the qualitative change in understanding, it is more about deepening of understanding when moving from multistructural to relational to extended abstract. Okay, so mas deeper na yung ating understanding of the topic. Okay, now, according to Biggs and Collins, again, sila po yung proponent ng ano natin, ng solo. Okay? So, yun, yun ang ating discussion about what is solo taxonomy. Let us now move on designing assessments using solo. Okay? So, again, according to Biggs and Collins, learning episode, both qualitative and quantitative learning outcomes are determined by a complex interaction between teaching procedures and student characteristics. Okay? Again, ulitin ko. Okay? Parang mali yung aking ano dyan, dapat determined. Yan. There you go. Again, learning episode, both qualitative and quantitative learning outcomes. Kanina, di ba, yung quantitative, yung unistructural and multistructural, meaning we amass ideas. No? From one idea, we learn different ideas. Okay? And then qualitative is from the many ideas that we have, we develop deeper understanding of these ideas. Okay? So sabi ni Biggs and Collins, yung qualitative and quantitative learning, they are determined by a complex interaction. Okay? So what dictates the movement from quantitative to qualitative? This is determined by a complex interaction between teaching procedures and student characteristics. Okay? And they are saying there are four major ways that the levels can increase in complexity. Ano itong four major ways para ma-increase natin yung complexity? Siyempre, we don't want our students to remain in pre-structural or unistructural or multistructural. Okay, we want them to increase, no, from one level to the highest level. Okay, so these are the four major ways. Capacity. Each level increases the demand on the amount of working memory or attention span. If you'll notice, from pre-structural to uni to multi, no, yung demand on the working memory or attention span is really mas nagiging demanding siya with amount of working memory, no? Kasi from one idea to many ideas, maraming iisipin yung bata. Okay? Next is relationship. Okay? Teka, may kulang ako sa capacity. Okay? At unistructural and multistructural levels, okay, a student need only sort of encode the given information and may use a recall strategy, no? Recall strategy lang sa uni and multistructural level, okay, to provide an answer. Now, at relational and extended abstract levels, a student needs to think not only about more things, hindi lang basta more ideas, more concepts at once, but also how these objects are interrelated. Yan. Okay? Now, relationship. Each level refers to a way in which the question and the response interrelate. Okay? At the unistructural, response involves thinking only in terms of one concept. Dahil nga isa lang siyang idea. And thus, there is no relationship possible. But at multistructural, it involves many aspects, many ideas, many knowledge, but there is no attention to relationship between these aspects. Okay, so wala pa rin relationship. At relational, student needs to analyze and identify an appropriate relationship between the many ideas. So now, doon pa lang sa relational, doon pa lang nakita yung relationship. And at the extended abstract, student needs to generalize to situations not experienced or beyond the given environment. Okay, so tandaan lang natin yung mga yan. Okay. Next is consistency and closure. Ano naman to? So this refer to two opposing needs felt by the learner. On one hand, the student wants to come to a conclusion and thus answer or close the question. But on the other hand, the student wants to experience consistency so that there is no contradiction between the question posed and the material given and the answer provided. What do we mean by this? No? If the learner is at the unistructural and or multistructural level, okay, most of the time, ano lang yan, very straightforward lang si learner. Okay? What is 1 plus 1? 2. Tapos, close na yung question. Okay? Kasi, ano lang, isa lang yung idea na alam niya eh. Or iilan lang yung idea na alam niya, tapos hindi pa niya alam yung interconnectedness ng mga idea na yun. But on the other hand, okay, if the student is at the relational level or at the extended abstract level, because of the many ideas na alam niya at because of the alam niya yung interrelationship ng mga bagay-bagay. Alam niya yung how the ideas are connected with one another and alam niya kung paano to na-extend, no? Pwede siyang mag-isip na, 1 plus 1 nga ba ay equal to 2? Diba? Yun bang kapag nag-add ba tayo ng dalawang line? Isang line plus isang line? Okay, pag pinagdugtong natin sila, ibig ba sabihin 2 lines? Mga ganon, di ba? Na, parang hindi siya applicable sa lahat ng bagay. No? So, nagkakaroon na siya ng mga contradiction. Okay? And thus, as the student writes, okay, or as the student gives justification, okay, mas nakakaranas siya ngayon ng mga, mas nagiging aware siya on the consistency and inconsistencies of what he or she is doing. Okay? So, yun. So, nagkakaroon tayo na kapag habang tumataas yung level ng student, nagiging mas critical siya. Yan. And that is what we want, right? For our learners to be critical thinkers. Okay. And last but not the least is structure. Okay. At the unistructural, response takes one relevant piece of information to link the question to the answer. At multistructural, response takes several pieces and links them to the question. At relational, response identifies and makes use of an underlying conceptual structure. While on extended abstract, it requires a generalized structure such that the student demonstrates an extension beyond the original given concept. So these are the things: capacity, relationship, consistency, and closure, and structure. These are the things that can increase the level of complexity in our assessment using solo. Okay? So, tignan natin. I hope you are familiar with PISA, no? Napaka, ano nito, napaka, anong tawag nito? Yung topic na to ay napaka-controversial noong 2019, ano? When lumabas yung result ng PISA, no? And everybody is very hyped with PISA. What is PISA? Ano ba yan? Ano? But actually, if you will analyze PISA questions, it somehow, okay, follows the solo. Right? Tingnan natin. Ha? This one is a sample of PISA question. Yes, totoo po itong PISA question in reading. Okay, this was released by OECD so that people will have an idea. Ano ba yung mga questions dyan sa PISA na yan? Ano? So, meron ba tayong mga English teachers dyan? Taas ang kamay ng mga English teachers. Hello, hello. Okay. So, this one is a test. Alam naman natin na ang PISA ay tatlong learning area yan, ano? We have reading, mathematics, and science. Okay? And PISA is given to 15-year-old learners. Okay? And yung PISA, ano yan? Hindi siya talaga curriculum based kasi ang understanding sa ang ano natin sa PISA, the way OECD describes it is what are the things the learner should know and be able to do based on what they know. No, parang sinasabi niyan ay kung meron ka kung ang bata ay 15 years old, ano dapat yung alam niya? Okay? At ano ang kaya niyang gawin base sa mga alam niya? Yun. Yun yung framework, yun yung pinaka-gist ng PISA. Okay? So it's really not about kung yung bata ay 15 years old, dapat nasa third year high school yan. Ano ba yung mga topics sa third year high school? O sige, i-measure natin siya sa ganitong topic sa math, sa ganitong topic sa English, sa ganitong topic sa science. No, hindi. So it's more about the synthesis ng mga napag-aralan ng bata simula kinder hanggang sa anong grade level man siya ngayong 15 years old siya. Okay, so synthesis siya ng mga dapat na nalaman niya. That's why kung makikita nyo to, reading yan, bakit may graphs? Bakit may table? No? So, yun. Okay? Kasi it's not really about ito reading lang. Focus lang tayo sa vocabulary, sa writing, sa verbs. No, hindi. No, this is a synthesis of what the student should know at that age, at 15 years old, and ano yung kayang gawin niya, no? Based dito, so sa reading tayo. So figure 1 shows changing levels of Lake Chad in Saharan North Africa. Lake Chad disappeared completely in about 20,000 BC during the last ice age. In about 11,000 BC, it reappeared. Today, its level is about the same as it was in AD 1000. Figure 2 shows Saharan rock art, which is an ancient drawings or paintings found on the walls of caves and changing patterns of wildlife. Okay, so this is based on a true source, no, the Time Atlas of Archaeology Times, Books Limited, 1988. Okay. So yan, usually ganyan yung PISA, no, magbibigay muna siya ng scenario. Tapos tsaka siya magtatanong. First question, what is the depth of Lake Chad today? Sige nga, tingnan natin. Ano nga po, monitor, ano po yung mga sagot ng ating mga participants. Hindi ko sila nakikita. Ano po yung sagot dyan? Mga English majors. Ayan. Pero kahit hindi kayo English, kung gusto nyo magsagot, why not? Okay. Meron po bang mga sagot? Naku, sabi nila ang aga-aga naman, ma'am, nagpapa-quiz ka. Okay. Meron bang sagot? Tingnan ko nga sa StreamYard. Sir, meron bang sagot? Wala. Okay. Baka dapat may ano tayo, may pa-prize tayo, Sir Resty. Sumagot sila. Okay. So, if you will notice, the first question is at what level? Ayun na lang. Okay? What is the depth of Lake Chad today? So, the first question is just about parang knowledge level lang siya, di ba? No, kasi nandiyan naman, obvious naman, kita naman siya dyan, doon sa given. Okay, kasi sabi niya, today, its level is about the same as it was in AD 1000. No, kaya nga siya reading kasi kung yung bata naiintindihan yung binabasa niya, then the bata will be able to understand this. No, ano yung hinahanap. Okay? So this question, since it's just asking for one information, we can say that this is at unistructural level. No? Kasi una, it's obvious and it's only about one idea. What is the depth of Lake Chad today? Okay? So yun. And then, question number 2. In about which year does the graph in figure 1 start? Ano daw na year nag-start yung graph? Okay? So, yun. So, again, this is now medyo tumaas ng konti, no? Kasi it now involves analysis of the graph. Okay? Titingnan niya, saan ba nag-start yung graph? Okay? And then, so, hindi lang to, medyo umaangat na tayo, so multi-structural dito. Right? Because, ina-analyze na natin, hindi lang basta nabasa natin, but now we are now analyzing it. Saan ba siya nag-start? Okay? So, it involves now multiple ideas. Question 3. Why has the author chosen to start the graph at this point? Yes, totoo po yan. Marami pong mga why question sa PISA. And actually sa PISA, bihira po ang multiple choice. Okay? So marami siyang mga ganitong mga questions that really imposes the kids, no, the learners to analyze and explain. Okay? So kung yung bata ay nasa unistructural, paano niya ito masasagot, diba? Why has the author chosen to start the graph at this point? So this is more of relational, right? Because from based on the given, ngayon is kailangan mag-analyze ni bata na bakit nga ba siya nag-start doon sa ganung graph? Bakit diyan siya sa taon na yan nag-start? Okay? And then next one, the next question is figure 2 is based on the assumption that figure 2 is about ancient drawings. Okay? And then ano niya to doon sa kung paano to nagko-connect sa Ice Age, right? The animals in the rock art were present in the area at the time they were drawn. The artists who drew the animals were highly skilled. The artists who drew the animals were able to travel widely, okay? And there was no attempt to domesticate the animals which were depicted in the rock art. Parang lahat tama, right? So it now involves a higher level of thinking, no? So nakita natin sa PISA, nag-e-evolve yung mga questions natin from unistructural pataas hanggang relational, and later on makita nyo meron din siyang extended abstract. Okay? At meron pa itong kasunod na question. Okay? For this question, ayan, you need to draw together information from figure 1 and figure 2. The disappearance of the rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and aurochs from Saharan rock art happened when? At the beginning of the month. So, ngayon dito na yung kinoconnect na niya. Paano to i-connect ng bata? Siyempre, titignan niya yung mga year dito. Yun ay kung maisip ng bata, no? The year dito sa mga animals, okay, yung wildlife, yung pattern ng wildlife, dito sa year ng changing levels ng Lake Chad, no? Yun ay kung maisip siya ng bata, no? And if you notice, yun yung sinasabi natin sa PISA, Okay? It's not that hindi siya alam ng mga students natin. No, ako'y naniniwala pa rin na magagaling ang mga students natin. And of course, kung magagaling mga students, magagaling ang mga guro na nagturo. It's not that hindi nila alam. It's just that hindi sila familiar sa ganitong mga questions. Okay? And that's what you can do as teachers. Okay? You bring questions like this in the classroom. You scaffold your questions. You make your questions from unistructural, then give them multistructural, then give them relational questions, then you give them extended abstract questions. Extended abstract questions which allows them to connect, no? To see the relationship from with one concept to another, with your subject to other subjects, with your subject to real life, and thus apply it. Okay? Apply it. Kaya nga siya extended abstract. Okay? So yun yung pwede nating gawin na assessment inside our classroom. No? We make the yung complexity, no? Hindi puro knowledge level, hindi puro unistructural level, puro one idea lang. Eh ma'am, kasi hindi babagsak po lahat ng mga students ko. Huwag nating isipin ganun, ano? Let's think na as long as we challenge our learners, no? Pilitin natin silang iangat from one level to another. Okay. Now, let's go to mathematics. Ayan. Sana naman may sumagot na dito. Sana naman. Okay. So, again, this is a PISA question. Okay. Which is talking about apples. A farmer plants apple trees in a square pattern. In order to protect the trees against the wind, he plants conifers all around the orchard. Okay. Here you see a diagram of this situation where you can see the pattern of apple trees and conifers for any number of rows of apple trees. Okay? So yung X, siya yung conifer, yung dots, siya yung apple tree. Okay? So kung meron daw isang apple tree, okay, ilan yung conifers that protects that apple tree? Okay. And kung merong 4 na apple tree, ilan yung conifers? Okay. So that is the relationship that we are asking from the learners. The number of apple tree and the number of conifers surrounding it to protect it. Okay. Again, in here we have 4. So we have n is equal to 2. N is the number of rows, by the way. No, it's not the number of apple trees. So if there are 2 rows, then here we have 4 apple trees. If there are 3 rows, then we have here 9 apple trees. And if we have here 4 rows, then we have 16 apple trees. And ilan yung conifers na nakapaligid sa kanya to protect it. Okay. Now, this is the question number 1. Complete the table. Ayan. So, may sample na siya, no? If there is 1 row, the number of apple trees is 1, and the number of conifers is 8. If there are 2 rows, the number of apple trees is 4, then the number of conifers is how many? Tingnan nga natin. Ma'am Dottie, may sumagot po ba? Ilan po yung conifers if we have 4 apple trees? So ano lang gagawin ng bata dito? Actually, magbibilang lang po siya. No? So it's unistructural. No? Magbibilang lang siya. Yun lang yung idea. Paano magbilang? Okay. Ayan. May sumagot na. Ayun. Teka.
Meron tayong
Tingnan lang.
nag-answer, ma'am. Nasa screen natin.
Yes, oo
Yes.
nga.
At
16
ulitin ko ba?
conifers. That is correct. Ayan. So, 16 conifers. Now, if we have 3 rows, how many apple trees? Ayan. Sige nga. How many apple trees kung meron tayong 3 rows? Yes. Opo, move on na tayo. Tayo sa third row. Okay. Ilan po yung apple trees? So again, bibilangin lang to, no? Doon sa end. Yes, there are 9 apple trees. Okay. And how many conifers? So again, bibilangin lang din yan. Yung mga X, yung ating conifers. Okay? So ilan daw yung conifers? 24 conifers. Very good, children. Okay, next one. Number 4. If there are 4 rows, how many apple trees? Parang ano, no, DepEd TV. Kung mayroong 4 hanay, ilan ang puno ng mansanas? Okay. Ilan po yan? 16. Tama. At ilan naman ang conifers? Kung mayroong 16 na apple trees, ilan ang conifers? Yan, nagbibilang pa sila. Okay. 32. Yes. Okay. As you can see, from 1 to 4, this is just a unistructural, no? But now, merong number 5. Wala siya sa figure. Okay. So, ngayon, mag-aano na si Bata. It's either si Bata ay magdo-drawing or hopefully, tingnan, ang ano dito ay okay lang kahit mag-drawing si Bata, pero mas maganda kung tayo bilang guro, makita ni Bata yung relationship. Anong nangyayari doon sa number of apple trees? O sige nga. O kayo, ilan ang apple trees kung mayroong 5 rows? ₱25. Yes. Ay, kinumpleto na. 25 apple trees and 40 conifers. Ayan. Ano nangyayari? No, sana nakikita ang ano natin dito, panalangin natin. Yung number of apple trees ay nag-i-square. No? We square the number of rows. And yung number of conifers, if you will notice, ay mayroon siyang common difference na 8. No? So, ibig sabihin, namumultiply siya 8. 8 times. No? Minumultiply natin yung number of rows by 8. Yan. Square it to get apple trees. Yes, that is correct. Tama, tama. Ay, nakakatuwa naman. May man tayong mga magagaling na mga guro. Okay. Yes, common difference is 8. Yes. Okay. So that is question number 1. If you notice, no, in question number 1, we have a unistructural and a multistructural na masasabi natin. Pero matingin ko rin relational na siya kasi dito pa lang natin maano yung relational sa number 2. Yan. So sinabi naman ni PISA, no, there are 2 formulas you can use to calculate the number of apple trees and the number of conifers for the pattern described above. Number of apple trees is n squared. The number of conifers is 8n, where n is the number of rows of apple trees. Now, question. Hindi pa ito question, no? There is a value of n for which the number of apple trees equals the number of conifers. Find the value of n and show your method of calculating this. Ayan. So you see, no, sa PISA, hindi siya talaga laging objective, no? Talagang ano rin yung method of calculating. If you will look at the items of teams, ganun din yung teams, ang daming open-ended question ng teams, and talagang pinagto-drawing yung mga bata, yung mga grade 4 specifically, no? And yung mga, at gusto talaga nila makita paano siya kino-compute nung bata. So again, this is more of the relational level, no? And again, do you use that kind of assessment inside your classroom? No? So again, naniniwala ako na alam to ng mga estudyante natin. Hindi lang sila sanay sa ganitong mga questions. Okay. So I guess with this webinar, no, I hope you will now be more conscious of the assessment that you do inside your class. Okay? And question 3. Suppose the farmer wants to make a larger orchard with many rows of trees. As the farmer makes the orchard bigger, which will increase more quickly? The number of apple trees or the number of conifers? Explain how you find your answer. Ayan, tingnan nga natin. Sige nga, anong sagot dito? No? So as you can see, this is now more of extended abstract. No? Kasi mag-iisip na yung bata, kapag nilakihan ba yung orchard, ano ang mas magi-increase ng mas madami? Yun bang apple trees o yung conifers? Yes, tama. The number of apple trees get bigger faster. Why? Sabi, explain daw. Kulang po yung sagot ninyo. Bakit? Tama po yung, kapag ganito, actually, binibigay ng PISA ay half point lang. No? Kasi sabi ng PISA, explain. So, if the learner will answer, ang sagot lang niya ay the number of apple trees will increase more quickly. Or number of apple trees get bigger faster. No? Kung ganun lang, kulang yan. Kasi sabi ni PISA, you need to explain bakit yun yung sagot mo. Okay? So now, the learner, for our learners, no, who might be not, hindi sana yung mga learners natin usually, di ba, to explain their answer, no? Kapag ganon, then, talagang magiging mababa tayo sa PISA. Hindi dahil hindi nila alam, but because hindi lang nila alam kung paano i-explain. No? Na maaring sinabi niya na, ay kasi din drawing ko siya eh. Nung din drawing ko, mas nakita ko, mas madami yung apple trees. Then say it. No? Then say it. Now, dito pumapasok yung issue ng the language of assessment. No? Kasi some of the analysts are saying, our students are finding it hard to answer PISA because the language of assessment is different from the language of instruction. No, but wait. These are 15-year-old learners, no? And the way we teach mathematics is in English. No? Ayan, the number of apple trees increase more quickly since squaring numbers will yield a bigger answer. Ayan, from n equals 9 than in number of conifer trees in the form 8n. O, di ba? Sana ganyan mag-explain yung mga bata. No? Kaya po yun, when we are doing assessment inside the classroom, you do it this way. You allow learners to explain, to write it, no? To explain it clearly through writing, no? Para mas kasi with that, the processing in their mind would be greater. Mas mapaprocess nila yon later on, no? Huwag tayong matakot na hindi man babagsak sila. Huwag tayong matakot kasi if this has been our way of life, our culture, no, in solving, no, lalo sa mathematics, then it's going to be magiging way of life na rin to ng learner na the learner will try hard to really express, no, to clearly explain the things he or she is doing, lalo na sa solving. Okay? That is in mathematics. Now, let's go to science. May science din po ang PISA. Alright? So, this one is about tooth decay. Okay. So, bacteria that live in our mouths cause dental caries or tooth decay. So, mga science teachers, be ready. Caries have been a problem since the 1700s when sugar became available from the expanding sugarcane industry. Today, we know a lot about caries. For example, bacteria that cause caries feed on sugar. The sugar is transformed to acid. Acid damages the surface of teeth. And brushing teeth helps to prevent caries. Ayan. So, yan. Ganyan, usually yung yung talaga PISA, no? Kaya cute din yung mga ganito if you will do this inside the classroom. No, yung magbibigay ka muna ng situation, and then from the situation, the learner will try to extrapolate the information in order to answer the question that follows. So, question number 1. What is the role of bacteria in dental caries? Ayan, sige nga, tignan natin. Anong sagot, mga science teachers? Huwag kayong mag-alala, kahit math teacher ako, alam ko po ang sagot dito. Kasi yung source nito, merong keto collection. Ayan. Ano daw yung role ng bacteria in dental caries? Bacteria produce enamel. Bacteria produce sugar. Bacteria produce minerals. Bacteria produce acid. Ano kaya yan? Okay. F. Bacteria produce sugar. Meron bang nasasabi? May nasusulat po ba na sinasabi that bacteria produce sugar? Okay? Ang sabi lang, bacteria feed on sugar. Ayan. Malinaw na malinaw, nasusulat. No? Ayan. Our first bullet point, the bacteria feed on sugar. So, F is mali. Ayan. Ayan, may nakatama. Correct. The bacteria produce acid. Ito po yan. So, you see, this is, pwede kasi rin tayo hindi mag-start sa unistructural. We can start at multistructural. Analysis agad. No? Kasi from this, kailangan maintindihan ng bata ano yung mga sinasabi dito sa mga bullet points. Okay? Next question. Tapos biglang pinasukan ng graph. Ayan. So, yung mga bata kung di talaga sanay, masashock na parang, science, bakit may graph? Okay? So, the following graph shows the consumption of sugar and the amount of caries in different countries. Each country is represented by a dot in the graph. Okay. Which one of the following statements is supported by the data given in the graph? Okay. In some countries, people brush their teeth more frequently than in other countries. The more sugar people eat, the more likely they are to get caries. In recent years, the rate of caries has increased in many countries. In recent years, the consumption of sugar has increased in many countries. Ano kaya yan? Okay? So, again, with this is now relational, right? Kasi kailangan marunong yung bata magbasa ng graph. Kailangan aware si bata ano yung nasa x-axis at ano yung nasa y-axis. So that, para masagot niya to. Ayan, tama. The answer is letter B. The more sugar people eat, the more likely they are get to caries. Right. Okay. So, now let's go to question number 3. A country has a high number of decayed teeth per person. Can the following questions about tooth decay in that country be answered by scientific experiments? Biglang pinasukan ng scientific experiments, no? Circle yes or no for each question. What would be the effect on tooth decay by putting fluoride in the water supply? Yes or no? Can that be answered by scientific experiment? Yan. So this is now extended abstract, right? Kasi hindi na to about the tooth decay na topic, no? Lumalabas tayo dun sa topic. Kinoconnect na natin siya into a scientific experiment. Yes! The correct answer is yes. Tama. Question number 2. How much should a visit to the dentist cost? Can this be answered by a scientific experiment? So, ano na to? Yes or no? Sasagot ba siya ng scientific experiment? No, correct. No po siya. So you see, this is now, nako-connect na siya ng bata, no, na, so this is now extended abstract, no? Kino-connect na natin yung science na topic on tooth decay into a social issue, no? Na kapag meron kang caries, then you will have to visit a dentist and it's going to cost you, no? And it doesn't take a scientific experiment to know that. Ayan. Okay? And now, we now have an attitude, no? How much do you agree with the following statements? Actually, these items in PISA, these are not scored, but instead, this is placed doon sa analysis ng attitude ng mga bata. Okay? Doon siya pumapasok. Okay? So, the kids can answer whatever they want, but of course, whatever anong itikman nila dito would reflect on their attitude. Okay? Towards tooth decay, yung vaccine, and sugar-free foods. Yan. Okay? Now, we have another, yung question chain, no? Using solo taxonomy. Okay? Kung paano nag-evolve yung mga questions natin from uni to extended abstract. Okay? First, tell me one of the seasons we experienced during the year. Yan. So, mga questions na ganito ay uni-structural. Okay? Only one idea. Now, we can level it up to multi-structural by asking, describe the different seasons and the weather we have during the year. So marami ng ideas, no? Different seasons. Okay. Next one. What causes some of the different weather we experience during the year? Choose a season you prefer and explain why. Yan. So, ano na naman? Hindi na lang siya basta idea, but we now get the relationship. Okay? And for extended abstract, reflect on how the seasons and the weather we experience has been changing. How does human behavior change according to the different seasons? Explain how different countries and cultures respond to the changing seasons. No? So we are now moving out of the topic, no, nang doon sa season, doon sa ating based on an experience, but now we connect it to the culture, okay? And yung paano yung way of life, kung paano to nakaka-affect doon sa ibang bansa because of the different seasons. So yeah, that's how we scaffold the questions. Okay, this is the question chain as we progresses from unistructural to extended abstract. So pwede rin ganito, what is the weather today? List some of the clothes we need to wear today. What type of weather do you prefer? Explain your seasons. What happens to the weather during the year? Describe the connection between the weather, the seasons, and where we are in the world. O yan, pinasukan ng geography, no? So, kailangan, nako-connect ngayon ng bata. Hindi lang siya basta kulong sa seasons, but also, ngayon, magiging aware na siya doon sa location on the globe kung bakit ganun yung season. Pwede rin, which of this is a hat? Describe the different features of this hat. How does a hat protect us from different types of weather? Which type of weather is this hat most suitable for? Create a hat that has a range of new features. What improvements would you make to this hat? So biglang nagkaroon na tayo ng dito, nag-design thinking na to, no? Doon sa extended abstract. Pwede rin spot the picture that shows windy weather. What happens to the trees when the weather is windy? How else do you know the weather is windy? If you had to choose with windy or rainy weather, which would you pick and why? How are windy and rainy weather connected? Explain some of the weather patterns we see when it is dapat yata yan windy. How might the wind act as a signal about other weather? Yan. So, meron ng wind patterns. Now, this is an example in history, no? This symbol actually is the assessment team in New Zealand. So, as you can see, talaga, ganito talaga yung ginagamit nila doon sa New Zealand. Nakasolo talaga sila. So, this is their example in history. The topic is, we are learning to evaluate the causes of World War II in the context of Treaty of Versailles. I don't know kung ano yan. Pero I wish yung mga history teacher natin ay alam. Okay? So, at the unistructural level, state a term of the Treaty of Versailles, define the conditions of Article 231. Yan. So, very specific, one idea lang. Next is multistructural. List three terms in the Treaty of Versailles. Describe Germany's reaction to the treaty. Oh, di ba? And then, relational. Explain how the treaty contributed to the outbreak of World War II. Which term was the most significant in causing World War II and why? Then, argue. Ayan, so malinaw na malinaw, no? Talagang pilit natin yung mga bata to defend what they are saying. Okay? And to explain. Okay? And then, sa extended abstract, evaluate the significance of the treaty in causing World War II. Would World War II have occurred without the treaty? Why or why not? So this is now a hypothesized question. No? So these are extended abstract siya because we allow the learners to think differently. No? To think, what if? No? What might happen? No? What could have been kung wala yung treaty na yon? Right? Now, this is an example on physical education. Okay? So, the topic is applying the principles of qualitative movement analysis to a variety of movement skills. So, at unistructural, name the first stage of qualitative movement analysis. Okay? At multistructural, ano yung maging assessment natin? Describe one characteristic of each stage of qualitative movement analysis. At relational level, explain how the observation stage and evaluation stage are dependent on each other in qualitative movement analysis. And last but not least, on extended abstract, a personal trainer is required to teach correct weight training techniques to inexperienced client. Predict. So predict na. What sorts recommendations the personal trainer may give to improve the performance of their clients. Okay, so this is now application to real life, no? Na hindi lang siya about movement analysis, but really applying it to real life. Okay? Ayan, punta naman tayo sa senior high. Sana meron ditong mga teachers na natuturo sa ABM. Okay? So the topic here is understanding ethical considerations when making decisions. So the context is establishing a business. Okay? And I can discuss ethical considerations faced by business owners. Mamaya makikita nyo tong I can na to. Papakita ko to sa inyo mamaya. Okay, at unistructural, the assessment that we could give is identify one thing you need to consider when establishing a business. At multistructural level, describe at least 3 resources that would be required to start a business. At relational level, explain how some decision-making may face an ethical dilemma. And at extended abstract, Sarah has decided to start a beauty business named Lash Lifts Galore. She has decided to pay people in our tasker to write fake customer testimonies to help her market the business. Sarah has no formal qualifications, but is advertising her services as professional, as she has been doing her friends and family's eyelashes for many years. Discuss the ethical considerations faced by Sarah when establishing her business. Yan. So, we now move out from the concept or knowledge level on the ethical considerations, no, when establishing a business, and evaluate the some of the businesses are doing and evaluate them, is it ethical or not. Yan. So, yun, no, sana when we are doing uh, assessments in the classroom, we do not stop from unistructural or multistructural. No, this is very common. I know yung identify, describe, enumerate, blah blah blah. No, but we don't stop from there. We level it up. No, paabutin natin siya hanggang extended abstract. Anyway, the always goal for us is for the learners to exhibit or to master or to attain 21st century skills, right? And among those 21st century skills is communication, right? Kailangan matutuan natin ng mga bata kung paano mag-communicate, how to explain themselves, no? How to justify, okay? How to justify their conclusions, how to hypothesize. No, these are 21st century skills, no? And to do for them to be able to do critical thinking. Hindi sila makakapag-critical thinking kung hanggang multi-structural lang po ang binibigay natin na assessment sa kanila. Mas mapapayabong po natin ang critical thinking if we will extend it to extended abstract. Okay. Now, let us go local. How do we use solo, in-depth, and NCR? Ayan. No, kasi alam ko marami na nakakarinig sa inyo yan, kaya nga nyo ako pinag-talk dito eh. Kasi naririnig nyo yan na ginagamit natin yan sa region. And how do we use it in the region? Solo is the framework that we use in designing the mid-year and year-end assessments. Yan. No, so we have consultants from PNU na tinuruan tayo, si Ma'am Marilyn, si Dr. Runduin, and their team. No, marami tayong mga katuwang sa Philippine Norman University na tinuruan tayo how to use the solo framework in designing our mid-year and year-end assessment. This is an example of that. This is a real item. No, sorry, math lang mapapakita ko sa inyo kasi math yung hawak ko doon sa mid-year and year-end assessment. So look at this. If 2.3 times 0.15 is equal to 0.345, how is the decimal point placed in the product? So you see, we are not really after on of the learners giving the answer. What is 2.3 times 0.15? Because if we phrase it that way, that is only at unistructural level. No? Kasi one idea lang yun eh. Mag-multiply siya ng decimals. Okay? But here, we are looking at the idea kung alam ba ng bata kung paano maglagay ng decimal point doon sa product. Okay? And the idea that kasi there are learners na they know how to do it, but they don't know how to phrase it. No, na yun na pala yun yung ginagawa nila. So it's very important that the learners know that the learners understand what we are saying here in the choices. So letter A, count the number of decimal places in the factors. Letter B, the decimal point in the product should be aligned in the factors. Letter C, the number of decimal places in the factors is the same as in the product by counting from right to left. Letter D, count the number of decimal places in the factors, then count from left to right in the product. O sige nga, tingnan ko nga, anong tama pong sagot dito? Okay, mga teachers, tingnan natin. Tahimik muna ako. Letter C. Yes, that is the correct answer, no? Okay. Ma'am, bakit? Kasi siya ba yung mahaba? Hindi. No? Actually, yung letter B, no, this is the, we make sure doon sa items ay present lahat. Doon sa choices, present lahat yung 4 levels. No? So that we will know if the key, kung nasaan yung level ng mga batang sumasagot. So kapag sinagot ng bata ay yung C, then there, alam na namin na siya ay nasa relational. Okay. Kapag letter B, alam namin na nasa, this choice is categorized under unistructural. Kasi ito ay ginagawa po ito sa addition, subtraction, hindi sa multiplication, no? So, ang idea dito ay, may alam siyang ganitong concept, kaso mali, hindi pang multiplication. So, unistructural. Okay. Now, letter A is actually multi-structural. Okay. Kasi kulang, no? Count the number of decimal places in the factors. Kulang siya. No, hindi lang basta siya makakount. Okay? Now, this one ay nasa hindi pala. Sorry, hindi pala. Mali ako. Wait. Ay, hindi. Yeah. Sorry. Yan, kasi hindi kami nag-extended abstract kasi yung extended abstract dapat away from the situation, i-extend natin siya sa different learning areas. So doon sa assessment ng mid-year and year-end, we are not able to do that. So yung pinakamababa ay pre-structural, then we have the unistructural, and the multi-structural. This is multi kasi nagkamali lang siya. Dapat right to left, naging left to right. Okay? So ganun siya. Ganun yung, this is the way we apply solo in the mid-year and year-end assessment, no? So we have the STEM and then the choices ay nakasolo, no? And we make sure in the choices present doon yung 4 na levels. No, we have the pre-structural, unistructural, multi-structural, and relational. Okay. And how do we design the assessments? No, hindi lang to basta okay, gumawa kayo ng question, then gumawa kayo ng choices na kailangan nasa solo. Hindi siya ganon, no? Siyempre, we carefully choose the competencies. Kasi remember, if your competency is about halimbawa, ang competency mo ay find the sum of two numbers. Okay? So there's really no way for you to write a question na pang-relational. No? Kasi siya, very straightforward. Very straightforward, no? So, yung pagpili ng competency, hindi po pwede na yung nasa mababang level yung competency, like define, no? Siya, nasa mababa siya na level kasi ang mababa ang competency na nasa basic. Bawa yun nga, ang niya ay define Pythagorean theorem. Okay. This is a unistructural na competency. Kasi this is very straightforward. To measure this, they only need to define Pythagorean theorem. No? Hindi ka makakapag multistructural dyan, makakapag relational. No? Kasi nasa mababa yung level. So, choosing the competency actually is really crucial in designing the mid-year and year-end assessment dito sa atin, sa DepEd NCR. Okay? Then after we chose the competencies, okay, ang pinipili namin competency yung nasa medyo mataas na level in such a way magiging creative kami. Hindi kami mahihirapan na gumawa ng choices. Kasi strictly yung mid-year and year-end assessment natin, naka-multiple choice eh. So, if we have a competency that is of a higher level, like halimbawa, solve routine problems, solve non-routine problems, then we can be we can be creative in doing the choices. Now, and of course, syempre, may TOS po ito. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng gumawa ng assessment na walang TOS. Okay, and in the TOS, we still use Bloom's taxonomy. Yan, wag po tayong magkakamali, no? Na solo lang ng solo. Hindi po, ginagamit po natin ang Bloom's taxonomy. No? Actually, napaka-powerful kapag pinagsama natin yung Bloom's at saka yung solo taxonomy. Kasi the Bloom's allows us to be still in that level, yung knowledge, yung comprehension, yan. And kasi doon naman din nakapattern kasi yung ating mga competency. Tapos meron tayong sinasabi dito na knowledge dimension. Kasi in the knowledge dimension, meron yung factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. FCPM yung ginagamit natin. Na the knowledge dimension allows us, kasi meron tayong different sets. No, hindi lang naman po yan isang set lang. Especially in mathematics, we have question banks. Now, the knowledge dimension allows us to make it, to ensure that the sets, mapaset A yan, mapaset B, mapaset C, mapaset D, mapaset E, ay parallel to one another. Kasi kapag sinabi natin na yung sa Bloom's taxonomy, ang Bloom's taxonomy ay apply, tapos ang knowledge dimension ay conceptual, then ibig sabihin, clue ito kay writer na kapag nagsulat ako ng question, it's about application ng concept. Kasi apply, conceptual. Application ng concept noong competency, kung ano man yung nakalagay na competency. Yun. Or, pwedeng halimbawa, Bloom's taxonomy natin ay comprehension, tapos, ang knowledge dimension ay factual, conceptual, procedural. Yan. Yan. This one is procedural. No, itong number 2 na item na to. I'm very sure this is procedural. No? Malamang-lamang this is comprehension procedural. Okay? Alright. Then, after that, we make sure that all the solo levels are represented in the choices. As you have seen nga, no, kailangan yung solo levels are represented. Bakit? So that we can categorize the learners. So that we can know nasaan yung mga learners. Sa ganitong topic ng multiplication of decimals, majority of the learners ay nasaan? Nasa pre-structural ba sila? Nasa unistructural ba sila? Nasa multistructural ba sila? Nasa relational ba sila? Why? Hindi para pagalitan yung teacher. Actually, we do not trace sa ang division itong sagot na to, sa ang school. We do not trace that. This is an analysis regionally so that we can evaluate how we are implementing the curriculum. And thereby, later on, do something to improve the improvement, to improve the implementation of the curriculum. Yun po siya. Not to sanction teachers, not to sanction SDOs, not to sanction EPSs, or even the SDSs. No, hindi po. No. This is really just an evaluation. Learning, knowing where we are is a good start. No? Kesa sa bato lang tayo ng bato, gawa ng project na hindi natin alam nasaan ba tayo. Okay? Ayan, na-preempt ko yata yung sagot dito. Why do we conduct mid-year and year-end assessments in NCR? First is, alam po natin na nagkaroon ng pandemic, wala po tayong NAT. And in the absence of NAT, we need observational information on the achievement level of students to serve as guide in our programs, projects, and enhancements for the teaching and learning process. Because if we will be able to see, pagdating pala dito sa topic na to, karamihan ng mga bata natin ay unistructural, then alam na natin what are the critical content, no? Ano yung critical content natin? Saan tayo magfo-focus? Okay? Pag ganito pala, itong subject na to, lahat kayo, pre-structural learner, no? Then, we need to do something about it, no? We need to alert the teachers, okay? And evaluate, saan ba tayo nagkukulang? Bakit ganito yung mga bata natin? Things like that, no? And yun kasi yung binibigay na information sa atin ng NAT. And kailangan, we need to continue this. Bakit? We also need to identify and analyze variations in achievement levels across the years. No? Importante po yan. No, makita natin yung achievement level across the years in our region and by division, lalo po ngayong pandemic. Because this is a new modality for all of us. So we need to analyze, meron bang pagkakaiba sa achievement level ng mga bata nung naka face-to-face tayo at noong tayo ay naka distance ed? Nag-increase ba? Kung nag-increase, edi mag-forever distance education na lang tayo. No? Or bumaba ba? No? Kung bumaba, ano yung mga variables na naka-affect? Yun bang learning modality? No? If you will go back, if you are familiar with the mid-year and year-end assessment, we ask the learners what are their learning modality is. Para makita natin na, effective pala yung printed. Kasi, yung mga naka-printed, ang tataas ng scores nila. Or effective pala yung online. Then, pipilitin natin lahat mag-online. Mga ganon. Or learning resources. No? Na, kapag yung palang, we know in NCR, different SDOs have different learning resources. May SDO na mayroong ganitong box, may SDO na nagbigay ng laptop, may SDO na nagbigay ng, yung USB, yung toggle, yun. Tapos may nagbigay ng tablet, nagbigay ng cellphone, and everything. No? So, with the assessment that we conduct, we can now compare na ano na mas mataas? Mas mataas itong SDO na to. Tingnan natin bakit, no? Effective pala yung ganitong learning resources na ginawa nila. Things like that, no? And that is the reason why. This is the reason why I'm really asking all of you, no? Huwag nyo nang imimik yung ginagawa ng region. Kasi po, yung results ay binibigay naman po sa mga SDO. Okay? Doing an assessment for the whole division ay dagdag trabaho lang po sa mga teachers and dagdag intindihin lang po ng mga bata. We cannot always assess and assess and assess. No? Because kung binigyan na po tayo ng region ng data, saying na, okay, this is your raw data, analyze it as your own. Alam ni Sir Resty yan. Binigay ko kay Sir Resty yung data ng mga mid-year and year-end assessment and so on. No, because we want you to also learn, no? Also identify where are the loopholes, saan mahina, no? And there's really no need for you to look at naririnig namin ma'am, gusto po kasi namin makita yung achievement ng bata. Kung gusto niyo po makita yung achievement ng individual na bata, do it inside the classroom. Okay? You apply solo in the classroom. You do not do it division-wide. No? If you want to see the improvement of kids, the achievement, quote and quote, per se, no? You apply solo in the classroom. Okay? And that's what we will be talking about. How do we apply solo in the classroom? Okay. This is what New Zealand is doing. Okay. They use solo taxonomy to scaffold learning. When we say scaffold, no, hindi kasi in learning, alam naman natin yan bilang mga guro. We start from the basic. on what is familiar with the learners. And then we slowly itinataas natin yan hanggang sa maging mas maging yung full understanding nila with something that is not familiar with them. Kaya sa scaffold, from the basic of what they know, then itataas natin yan level by level until they reach a certain level that they understand this. Not familiar with them, not familiar to them, but they will be able to understand it because we scaffold the learning. Unti-unti natin siyang ginaid yung bata. Okay? And that's what we could do in solo taxonomy. Okay? Now, in solo taxonomy, again, the unistructural and multistructural we call this as surface learning. No, kasi basic lang yan. Puro ideas lang yan. So surface lang yan. Parang okay, ano yung weather sa Pilipinas? No? Puro yung gano'n lang, surface learning lang. Okay? And now, ang we want the learners to achieve is deep learning, relational and extended abstract. So, how do we do that? No, from concrete facts, okay, unti-unti natin siyang dalhin sa abstract ideas. From few organizing dimensions, okay, from one dimension lang to many organizing dimensions. We teach them how to think yung multifaceted, no? Then minimal consistency to maximal consistency. We want them for me to be able to justify, reason out, okay? And think of different aspects of things, no? When they justify or reason out. No use of organizing principles to complex use of organizing principles. No, yung pinag-connect na niya ang iba't ibang mga bagay. And of course, from low cognitive capacity to high cognitive capacity, right? Alala niyo yung lots to hots, okay? No relationships to multiple relationships. And high need for closure to low need for closure. Ano yung high need for closure, no? Usually, yung mga bata na nasa unistructural at multistructural, ang ano niyan ay, ano po yung tamang sagot? Parang hindi sila mapakali na walang tamang sagot. So, they need a closure, no? But those who are in the relational or extended abstract especially, they are aware that sometimes there is really no right answer. No? Sometimes you just have to explain and defend what you think, no? And not be able to come up with the right answer because there is really no right answer, no? And they will be comfortable with that. No? Yun yung mga bata na mayroong deep learning. Okay? So, in the pre-structural, let us define clearly, ano ba yung pre-structural? Ito yung tinatawag natin na state of ignorance. Why state of ignorance? Because, first, learners do not yet understand the knowledge they are supposed to learn. Okay? Wala pa nga silang alam, kaya siya ignorante ba? No, hindi pa, maaring pre-structural kasi hindi pa natin natuturuan. So, they do not yet understand. Okay? And they don't know how to gather information about the relevant idea, how to organize it in relation to other ideas, and often don't get the point of the idea at all. Yan, ito lang yung sad, no? Na kapag nasa high school na tapos hindi pa alam kung paano kinukuha yung idea. No? So kung may mga ganitong tayong mga learners, kailangan nating solusyonan ito. Mamaya, pakita ko sa inyo. And at pre-structural level, learners don't know the answer to questions and or they don't understand the question. Okay. I don't know which is much frightening. Is it they don't know the answer to the question or they don't understand the question? Okay. So either way, Kapag ganito po yung sitwasyon, then meaning your kids are at the pre-structural level. So for example, if the question is, why use the solo taxonomy to create learning outcomes? Pre-structural responses would be like, I don't know. We're supposed to, sabi kasi ng division, umattend po kami dito at tapos mamaya mag-aano kami, may gagawin kami, mag-breakout daw kami. Required. Pag ganyan, pre-structural level po yan. Okay? Then, that's what good learning is all about. O di ba pang Miss Universe, World Peace, na ganyan. Okay. So, yun po yung sa pre-structural. Okay. Next is the unistructural. Ano naman yung unistructural? Again, unistructural is the state of surface learning. Panglabas lang ba? Okay. Okay. Learners have learned a relevant aspect of the whole. They may be able to make simple and obvious connections, but the meaning, value, and significance of the idea may still be unclear to them or they may not really see at all. Naku, naalala ko to kung nagbasa po kayo ng mga results ng PISA. Ito po yung sinasabi sa ating mga learners. Mapa-reading, mapa-math, mapa-science. Yun lang daw mga mga questions na simple at obvious yung sagot. Yun lang daw yung nasasagot ng ating mga bata. Okay. And the common verbs, when we create learning outcomes or assessment or learning objectives, ito yung mga usually ginagamit natin to show unistructural level. Define, identify, count, name, recite, follow simple instructions, calculate. Akala nyo calculate, ano yan ha, multistructural yan. No, depende. Okay? Reproduce, arrange, recognize, find, note, seek, sketch, pick. Okay? For example, if the question is, why use the solo taxonomy to create learning outcomes? Ayan. So the same question. But the unistructural responses would be like, it helps you choose appropriate expectations. It helps you plan an assessment strategy. It helps you organize a useful sequence of learning experiences. It helps you to use outcomes to encourage deeper approaches to learning. Ayan. Actually, ito pa po yung ibang gamit ng solo. Hindi lang po pang assessment ang solo. Okay? It helps us to choose appropriate expectations. Ayan, assessment. It helps us organize a useful sequence of learning experiences. And it helps us to use outcomes to encourage deeper approaches to learning. Okay. Now, how do we move learners from pre-structural to unistructural? No, kasi mahirap mangarap na from pre-structural to extended abstract. Imposible po 'yun. Imposible. You really need to scaffold. No? Mahirap lumukdang mula sa pinakababa ng hagdanan hanggang sa pinakamataas. No? Kailangan talaga nating mag-scaffold. First, misconceptions and erroneous beliefs that could impede understanding need to be surfaced and dealt with. Alam ko naman, alam niyo yan mga teachers. Okay? Students must learn the ground rules of the discipline. What it accepts, what its standards are, its jargon, its assumptions, what it considers evidence, how it conducts research, and so forth. Mamaya papakita ko sa inyo paano yung ginagawa. Students at the pre-structural and unistructural stages need more structure if they are to learn because the mass of information is chaotic to them. So, kailangan talaga structured yung learning. No? Hindi pwedeng bagsak lang tayo ng bagsak na, hindi, kailangan alam mo na to dapat. Ito naiiwan ka na. No, hindi. They need structure. Okay. Now, let's go to the next state of surface learning, which is multistructural. Again, this is still under surface learning. At multistructural, learners understand several relevant aspects of a whole idea. So marami siyang alam. Okay? Marami siyang alam na idea. Several ideas that are related to each other in some way, though they may not understand the relationships very well. Marami nga siyang alam, pero hindi naman niya alam paano to related with one another. Okay? Marami tayong ganyang mga estudyante. They can make some connections and might have learned several bits quite well, but they struggle to see the big picture. Okay. Naalala ko nung nagtuturo ako, nung explain ko yung trigonometric functions. And I told them na, ano lang to, triangle lang to na umiikot-ikot sa loob ng unit circle. No? When I told them about it, doon na nila realize na, ganun lang pala yun. No? Yun, no? So, minsan they really struggle to see the big picture. The common verbs are that we usually use in stating our objectives, our learning objectives, in giving our assessments are combine, classify, structure, describe, enumerate, list, do algorithm, apply method, account for, execute, formulate, solve, conduct, prove, complete, illustrate, express, characterize. Note na mga math teachers, yung solve na yan, okay, hindi porket nagsabi kayo ng solve ay nasa mataas na po yan. Okay, depende. Pero kasi kung solving yan, mimicking what you have given as example in the classroom, then multistructural lang po yan. No? Kasi parang yung binigay mong example, pinalitan mo lang siya ng mga given. Pero siya pa rin naman yun. Okay? So, multistructural lang po yan. Okay, so balik tayo dun sa question na why use the solo taxonomy to create learning outcomes? Kung nasa multistructural ang teacher, no, ganito yung magiging sagot niya. It helps you choose appropriate expectations, plan an assessment strategy, organize a useful sequence of learning experiences, and use outcomes to encourage deeper approaches to learning. So the teacher was able to itemize, no, enumerate all of those na naging sagot sa unistructural na paisa-isa. Okay? Now, how do we move from unistructural to multistructural? How do we guide learners, no, from knowing just one idea to knowing multiple of ideas? Individual ideas need to be overlearned so that retrieval of them becomes automatic. This frees up memory and attention span to focus on multiple ideas because students don't need to concentrate to remember each one. No? So, overlearn daw para maging natural na lang sa kanila. No? I remember, again, nung natuturo ako, nire-require ko talaga yung mga bata to write the formula whenever they solve anything. No? Kasi writing it becomes natural to them. No? Later on, na without knowing it, like sinasabi sa kanila, you write the formula before you start computing. No? Because doing so, later on, not knowing it, na-memorize na nila yon. So it's now becomes automatic. No, the equation of the line is y equals mx plus b, and m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. Lagi ko pinapasulat yan sa kanila. No? Not enough yung c squared equals a squared plus b squared sa Pythagorean theorem. Pinapasulat ko yan sa kanila that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of its sides, no, in a right triangle. Mga ganon. Para nagiging automatic yan sa kanila. Okay? Learners should practice using these ideas to explain things, make sense of information, so an understanding of how ideas relate to the world can develop. No? So, kailangan ma-practice sila to explain. No? And dyan papasok na naman yung assessment natin, the way we ask questions inside the classroom. No? Hindi yung puro basic lang na questions. Okay. Now, another state of deep learning is napunta na tayo sa relational. Deep learning na tayo. How do we characterize students na nasa deep learning, nasa relational? Learners can integrate ideas into whole, recognizing relationships and connecting ideas to each other. They find relationships between theory and practice, purposes, and the significance of ideas is clear to them. Alam na natin yan, ano? Yun nga, na nakikita na ng learner yung interconnectedness ng ideas and also yung relationship between theory and practice and its purpose and yung significance noong idea. Some learners at this level may be able to use this understanding to apply ideas to new situations. And common verbs ay analyze, compare, contrast, integrate, explain causes, apply theory, argue, implement, plan, summarize, construct, design, interpret, structure, conclude, substantiate, exemplify, derive, and adapt. Okay? So, kapag tinanong natin ang isang relational level na teacher, why use the solo taxonomy to create learning outcomes, they could produce a whole paragraph to explain it. No? Ayan. So, i-explain niya kung paano yung interrelatedness noong assessment sa learning outcomes, and so on and so forth. Now, to move from multi-structural to relational, okay, in addition to further overlearning, yung nakita natin from pre-structural to multi-structural, students need to practice investigation connections. Yan, between ideas. Reasons for them, way in which they can be organized and explained relative to each other. So, yeah, underline ko po yung reason, ano? This is usual na nakakalimutan natin inside the classroom. Yung reasoning, no? Tandaan natin, if the kids can reason up, no? Hindi yan nagiging bastos kung they can reason up. They can reason out, it's because they are now practicing critical thinking. Nagiging critical na sila. So I hope we are practicing this inside the classroom. Learners should be encouraged to take ideas apart and put them back together or organize them in new ways. No, ayan. So this is a good practice for us to elevate our kids from multi-structural to relational, no? Allow them to take ideas apart, no? Ano silang mag-explore, no? Pagtilad-tila rin yan and then put them back together. Okay. Now, let's talk about extended abstract, the highest of the deep learning. In extended abstract, learners can organize, judge, and generalize the whole of their learning in order to use and adapt their knowledge in situations. No, alam natin yung generalize ay part siya ng relational, but to use it and adapt in situations, that is something that is peculiar in extended abstract. So they can make connections between their subjects as well as between their subjects and the outside world. Yan. So hindi lang doon sa subject mo, ma'am, sir, no? But also between subjects. And not hindi lang sa loob ng classroom, but also the relationship between the subject and the outside world. And with this, if they can see these connections, then they can enhance their understanding. Okay? So common verbs that we use is theorize, generalize, hypothesize, predict, judge, transfer theory, assess, evaluate, interpret, critically reflect, predict, criticize, and reason. So if we ask a teacher na nasa relational level, why use the solo taxonomy to create learning outcomes? Somehow it would be like the relational response, okay? Except the learner may bring in considerations from other aspects of teaching, learning, curriculum, or assessment theory. Okay. Now, to move from relational to extended abstract, practice. Wala pong ibang paraan kundi practice with synthesis and evaluation. Okay? Kapag ganyan, uy, may mali akong spelling. Teka lang. It should be greater. Sorry. It should be greater. Okay. Greater understanding of relationships between ideas and the reason things are done at a certain way. As they are forced to use this knowledge in increasingly familiar, varied situations, their ability to generalize and adapt will grow. Yun po. Okay? Now, effective teaching strategies at different levels of solo learning outcome. Yes, we can use solo to enhance our teaching strategies. Okay, so these are some of the tips now that we can do to have effective teaching strategies. Okay, at pre-structural, we know that the demand on working memory is not applicable kasi wala pa nga siyang alam. Okay, this is the di ba? Wala pang alam yung bata. So, need for closure and consistency not also applicable. Now, what the learner does is the learner is unable to make a claim or makes an unrelated claim. Kasi wala nga siyang alam. So, therefore, ang gagawin ng bata para ang gagawin ni teacher para matuto si bata is to teach for engagement. Now, at unistructural and multistructural, we know these are both surface understanding, okay? Wherein low ang demand on working memory kasi puro siya recall, okay? There is a high need for closure and lower need for consistency sa unistructural, and there is moderate need for closure and consistency, okay, for multistructural. Ang ginagawa ng bata usually makes a claim in relation to one aspect. Now, for the teacher, ano gagawin ng bata? Ng teacher, kung ganito yung bata, teach for automaticity of content and skills through learning, modeling, repetition, and practice. Yan. Now, that's why yung common, very effective yan sa unistructural. No? Kasi, lalo na yung basic ng common, kasi paulit-ulit yun, paulit-ulit, hanggang sa maging natural na sa bata. Okay? Makes a claim in relation to several independent aspects. Ito yung ginagawa ng bata at multistructural. So, ang pwedeng gawin ng teacher kapag ganito yung type ng bata ay teach for increasing and consolidating content and skills through learning, repetition, and practice. No? So, ila-level up na natin from automaticity. Kung nakita natin na, automatic na siya. Alam na niya yung 6 plus 10 ang hindi nagkakamay. No? Automatic na sa kanya na alam na niya na ang sum ay 16. Hindi na iisa-isa sa kamay. Then, ano na siya? Increase na natin yung pagko-consolidate ng content and skills. Okay? But of course, repetition and practice pa din. Now, at the relational and extended abstract, we know this is a deep and conceptual understanding and has high demand on working memory because of relating and transforming strategies. Okay? Sa relational, there is a high need for consistency and can delay the need for closure. And for extended abstract, the kids is prepared to accommodate inconsistency. Kasi nga, nag-hypothesize na siya. Okay? At the relational level, a learner makes a claim integrating ideas in relation to a given or experience context. So, ang pwedeng gawin ni teacher kapag nandiyan na ay teach for interrelationships, the integration of content and skills within an organizing principle. At the extended abstract, the kids makes a claim in relation to a context not yet experienced or beyond the original context. No? Nakikita nyo ito sa PISA kanina, di ba? Usually, nag-go beyond tayo doon sa original context, doon sa situation. Okay? So, ang pwedeng gawin ng teacher dito, akala nyo titigil na tayo pag nasa extended abstract? No, we enhance it. We teach for abstract concepts or relationships that sit outside the original organizing principle. Okay. Now, why does sharing solo with students matter? Sinasabi natin, sabi ng New Zealand at ng Australia, hindi lang dapat teachers ang nakakaalam ng solo. Dapat alam din siya ng students. Okay? Why? Because learning is all about effort and effective strategies. Okay? Remember, if the student knows that nasa Nasa unistructural ka lang, no? And alam niya anong ibig sabihin nun. Then, the responsibility is now shared. Hindi, ang responsibility in learning, hindi lang nasa side ng teacher, but the responsibility ng learning is now shared with the student because now the learner will now give effort, no? In learning. Kasi ang requirement ng curriculum nasa extended abstract tayo and then nasa unistructural lang pala ako. So now, I now have a shared responsibility with my teacher. Okay? And my teacher, on the other hand, will now give effective strategies to help me, no, in learning. Okay? So, repositioning, knowing nothing, and needing help to start. No? Sa solo, hindi natin sinasabi na, pre-structural ka, wala kang alam. No. No. It's that in solo, when it is known by students, now, the students knows exactly where he or she is and know ano yung help na kailangan niya to begin. No, merong ginagamit na template diyan inside the classroom, no? So, ang outcome, okay, I needs help sa pre-structural. So, the student can say na I need help to start, no? Sa unistructural, if directed, I can do this if directed or shown exactly what to do. So now, the student can verbalize, no? Una sa pre-structural, anong kailangan niya para makasimula siya? Okay? Sa unistructural, sinasabi niya ano yung kaya niyang gawin kung siya ay tinutulungan or minomodel sa kanya kung ano yung gagawin. At multistructural, aware but no reasons as a go, makes mistakes. I can do this but I don't know why. Or when so, it is trial and error. I make mistakes. Okay? At relational level, I can do this and I know why and when. I am strategic or purposeful and can find and correct my own mistakes. At extended abstract, I can do this and I know why and when. I seek feedback to improve what I am doing. I help others. I am a role model for others. I find new ways of doing this. No. So yun, na-i-scaffold natin yung understanding ng bata and the kid can verbalize ano yung nararanasan niya, nararamdaman niya. And mistakes, error, and not knowing are opportunities to learn. As you have seen dito, no? We always tell our learners that it's okay to do mistakes as long as you know where you got it wrong, no? So that you will not do it again and correct it next time. Yon. So yun yon. Yun yung ano tawag natin dito, yung growth mind, no? Making visible the gap between what students know and the desired learning goal, no? If they are aware of solo, they know where they are. Okay, I have described 3 driver instructions when operating a vehicle. So this is a multi-structural outcome. Okay, activities that will help me close the gap. So this is in talking with the teacher. No, explain how the distraction affects the driver. Explain why the distraction puts the driver and others sharing the same road at risk. Generate potential solutions to the driver, and evaluate potential distractions. And where I want to be desired learning outcomes. I want to plan and implement solutions to help drivers manage distractions when driving. This is an extended abstract outcome. So if the learners know this, no, if the learners are aware where they are, what are the activities they need to do so that they can close the gap from the current level to the level that they are aiming at. And malinaw saan niya gustong pumunta. Then, the learning process has now become a partnership between the teacher and the students. Identifying effective teaching and learning approaches to reach a learning goal. So yun ang isa sa maganda na idudulot if the students are aware with solo, no? So when students have a pre-structural understanding of the content, we should teach for engagement. Kapag unistructural understanding, we should teach for automaticity of content and skills. Paulit-ulit ako, no? Kasi gusto ko yung automaticity of content and skills sa inyo para hindi nyo makakalimutan through learning, modeling, repetition, and practice. Kung nasa multi-structural, we should teach for increasing and consolidating content and skills. Again, through learning, repetition, and practice. Kapag nasa relational, we should teach for interrelationships. Kapag nasa extended abstract, we teach for abstract concepts or relationships. Ayan. Parang pangatlong beses ko na itong inulit. Ano? Yes. Okay. And dito rin makikita natin ano yung mga verbs that we could utilize. First, for bringing in ideas, for connecting ideas, and for extending ideas. Okay. Now, solo in everyday acts of learning. So, how do we apply solo in everyday teaching? Okay, first is determining prior knowledge. We can use solo to assess, no? Pre-test. Pwedeng yung pre-test nyo ay nakabay solo. So, that, hindi nyo lang basta alam niyo kung ano yung hindi alam at alam ng bata, but also you know the level of understanding that they have if you use solo. Okay? Clarifying learning intentions, which is our desired learning outcomes. Aligning learning intentions with the learning goal. Ika nga, yung constructive alignment. No? For example, we have this. This is in social studies. Our objective is students will gain knowledge, skills, and experience to understand how cultural practices vary but reflect similar purposes. So we can state our intended learning outcomes this way. No, we have the unistructural, no, defined culture and defined cultural practice. We have the multi-structural, list cultural practices. Describe one or more cultural practices. Then we have relational, explain the purpose, compare and contrast, classify, and we can have an extended outcome na learning outcome. Make a generalization and reflect on the similarities in purpose. Okay? So, yan. Meron yata akong nasa likod. Let me delete lang. Ayan. Okay. Okay, so yung aligning learning intentions, okay, what needs to be learned, ito yung learning goals natin. What the student will do, yan yung learning intentions. Now, from the learning goals, naging na siyang learning intentions kasi yun na yung gagawin ng bata. And then, experiences for learning. Ito na yung learning experiences. And how the outcomes will be assessed, of course. Kailangan lagi natin yung kinoconsider. Effective strategies for student progress. Okay. Monitoring and assessing learning progress. Ginagamit natin yan. So, we can use solo this way, ng giving effective strategies for student progress. Parang napakita na natin yan kanina, no? Yun yung automaticity, yung giving more examples, practices, and of course, monitoring and assessing learning progress. No, napakita na rin natin yan, how do we assess using solo. And last but not the least, giving and receiving feedback. No, you can use solo in giving, receiving feedback. No, na we can say that okay, you are in this unistructural level. Okay, these are the things that you need to do. Yun nga, yung pinakita ko kanina na table, no? And ito yung gusto natin kasi na maging level mo. Okay? So that's one way of giving and receiving feedback. Okay. So solo is very, very useful in determining where we are going, where the learner is going. So maganda na alam siya ng learner para alam niya kung saan siya pupunta. Okay? And not just where he or she is going, but also how am I going? Paano siya pupunta doon sa next level? Okay? Pinakita ko na kanina, di ba, na kung ganito ka level, then these are the things that you need to do. Okay? And not just that, not just how am I going, but also after achieving the desired level, where to next? No. Yan. So, now the learning has now become a shared responsibility. Ano, paulit-ulit ako, no? Kasi gusto kong tandaan nyo yan. If we use solo inside the classroom, learning has now become a shared responsibility between teacher and learner. Hindi siya laging teacher factor. No. Hindi natin pwedeng laging isisi sa mga teacher kung bakit hindi natututo ang learner. No? Kaya maganda if we use solo inside the classroom, then the learner is now aware na saan siya pupunta, paano siya pupunta sa next level, and after attaining that next level, where to next. Okay? And again, paano pupunta sa susunod, at after that, saan na naman susunod. Yun. Okay? So it now becomes like parang nag-iisa si learner. No. Doing solo, but not alone. Okay? It's just that the learner are now becoming totally responsible for themselves. Okay? Because if they are being totally responsible for themselves, it is then that they will discover just how capable they are. No? Let us believe na walang taong natural na bobo, walang taong natural na tanga, no? It's just that kailangan lang natin silang talagang bigyan ng opportunity, no, to do it by themselves, being responsible for themselves, so that they can discover ano yung kaya nilang gawin. Okay? And what is our role as teachers? The best, tandaan po natin lagi, the best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. Okay? And with that, maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Knowing where you are is a good start. That is from Ma'am Bernadette Laran. Thank you very much, ma'am, for a very comprehensive presentation of the Solo Framework, complete with examples from PISA and Solo Framework exams from New Zealand and other countries as well. Teachers, I'm sure you are interested to dig deeper and have a few questions of your own about the Solo Framework. We're now opening the floor for the Q&A with Mrs. Duran with us. So if you have any questions, please comment down below, and we will pick some of them. As we know, we only have a few minutes of her time as well. Ayan. So we have
Yeah.
our first question. Alam ko, ma'am, hiniram namin hanggang 10 a.m. lang. Please give us
Oo nga.
questions.
Actually, in-off ko na yung phone ko kasi tawag na tawag
Tatawagan
sa
na kayo
mga,
inuwan.
oo,
So we
wala
have
na.
one question here po.
Okay. Yes, necessary po ba
Necessary
na
to the, yeah.
magkaroon ng different points depending on the level of questions na ibibigay sa bata? Yes, we use the different points kasi para sa analysis, no? Kasi kapag nakita natin na, ang point ni bata dito ay 1, alam natin na nasa pre-structural. Na kapag ang point ng bata ay 2, nasa unistructural siya. Kapag 3, multistructural siya. So the point is really more of a coding, not really as a grade. No? Coding yon kapag nag-a-analyze tayo na halimbawa, kung mayroong 15 questions, tapos ang point niya lang ay 15 points out of the 15 questions. Kasi ang dapat na point niya doon kung lahat yon nasagot niya na nasa relational level siya. So 15 times 4, that would be 60 points dapat. So kapag nakita natin na 60 points, uy, nasa relational level yung bata. Kahit na anong topic, kahit na anong competency, nasa relational level siya. Pero kung mas mababa siya sa 60 now, alam natin na mayroong mga topic na hindi siya nasa relational level. So, pwede natin isilipin yon, and that now becomes our critical content. Yon. So, yun po yun. Diba? Ano nga yung critical content? Hard to learn, hard to teach subjects. And there is a big correlational between the hard to teach and hard to learn. Most of the time, yung mga hindi natututunan ng mga bata ay hard to teach sa teacher. But that is only true during the face-to-face. Tandaan po natin. Because ngayong pandemic, meron tayong mga hard to teach, hindi dahil sa mahirap yung content, pero mahirap kasi siya ituro ng naka-distance learning mode. Diba? Like for example, yung microscope sa science. Paano mo tuturuan yung bata na mag-examine sa petri dish nang walang microscope? Dahil wala namang microscope yung bata. Paano natin tuturuan ng physical activity sa PE yung mga bata na naka-distance learning mode? Nang naka-modular. Diba? Paano mo ipapakita sa bata yung pag-exercise na naka-modular? No? Paano mo ipapakita sa bata yung music in the medieval times kung naka-modular? No? So these are critical content. Medyo nagiging iba yung definition natin ng critical content ngayon because of the pandemic. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. Sana
Yan, thank you,
nasagot ko
ma'am.
po yung
Sabi nga
questions.
natin, it could be hard to teach and hard to answer, no? But definitely, sabi nga ni ma'am, doing solo framework, you will never be alone because you have all your teachers with you and help you um, in, in and capacitating you in able to answer the questions during the lab examination. I think no further questions as of the moment kasi panay thank you na yung nababasa natin. And I know this is on live, but they could review this one siguro after pa, no? And we won't take you much longer, Ma'am Daran. And please to allow us just to present you first with your certificate of recognition, which will be shared in a while, sir. Yan, habang hinihintay po natin i-share para to save time. Allow me to read the contents. The Republic of the Philippines, Department of Education, National Capital Region, Schools Division Office of Mandaluyong City, Calbayog Street, Barangay Highway Hills, Mandaluyong City, awards this certificate of recognition to Mrs. Bernadette C. Daran in acknowledgement of her meritorious service as a resource speaker for a worthy endeavor to amplifying development of assessment and performance task skills or ADAPTS for 2022, a capability building on the development of assessment tools held during the 28th day of February 2022. Given this 28th day of February 2022 at Schools Division Office, Mandaluyong City, signed Dr. Ramela M. Cruz, CESO 6, Schools Division Superintendent. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you
And
po.
congratulations po.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
This is
Thank
a
you
very,
po.
this is a very worthwhile morning. Naku, napaka-enriching po ng inyong puts for today's event. And of course, to grace us this morning, hindi po pwedeng hindi kami makakarinig ng message from our uh, Chief Education Supervisor for Curriculum and Implementation Division, none other than Dr. Aline G. Mendoza. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Ma'am Dottie, Ma'am Dorothy Grace Reyes, our MC for today. Of course, sa ating una ko munang pasalamatan si Ma'am Daran habang nasa link pa. Ma'am Daran, thank you so much for taking your time, giving your precious time to share your expertise to SDO Mandaluyong. We've been requesting this day for the FDO to have these inputs to be given to us because we are planning also big things about assessment and SDO Mandaluyong. Thank you so much, Ma'am Daran. And of course, my greetings first to our dear Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romela Cruz. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving this opportunity to have this assessment uh, amplified in SDO Mandaluyong, as the training title implied. Thank you also to Sir Resty for spearheading this kind of training. Actually, this is a CID, Unified Training for All About Assessment. Thank you, Sir Resty. Sa lahat ng mga education program supervisors have been part of this training, and I understand you will have your um, breakout session with your team on the development of assessment tool for our learners. Of course, sa lahat ng ating mga teachers, so find time to attend this orientation. Thank you so much. Sa lahat ng ating mga, kung may mga guests tayo, good day to everyone, and thank you for your participation. Um, Actually, this is part one of our PPAs to be implemented to our SDO Mandaluyong come 2022. This is one of the big projects that we launched this year, 2022. We also um, we try to align our activities to the LAMP of the regional office, yung ating learning assessment monitoring program, aligning their direction in terms of assessment, so that when we have our assessment, we will be thinking of our own uh, up practice here in SDO Mandaluyong. Yes, we know this is not that easy, but then slowly and surely, with all the inputs given or technical assistance from regional office, I know and for sure we can make it for the uh, this end of the calendar year, of end of the school year 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022. So ang usapan po natin with the approval of the superintendent, our dear superintendent, ng ating solo framework assessment based on solo framework will be we will start this June, before the end of this year, itong calendar school year na to. So mag-start na tayo. We failed to prepare for the mid-year of this school year, but then finally, or we will targeting the exit assessment natin sa June, uh, June 20, sometime mga ganon, mga first or second week of June. So hopefully, we will be asking our team. I understand mamaya po magkakaroon po kayo ng breakout session with your supervisor, learning area supervisor, and expectedly we have around 294 target teachers to be part of this endeavor. But then I understand there are also others who are also interested. Um, we are working on this for alignment, lalo na dun sa magiging part tayo sa PISA, and understand we are all preparing for this. So thank you so much for your time, and I understand yung solo framework as promoted, or kumbaga yung the person initiated this kind of framework, uh, who is John Biggs. He has that in mind na ang learning natin is talaga observable naman and can be measured. Lahat po ay may attribution. So doon sa solo framework, yung ating tinatawag na structure of observed learning outcomes, like a taxonomy, siya po ay parang enhanced ng taxonomy ni Bloom taxonomy. So don't think it that nga parang complicated ito. Actually, parang kung titingnan mo, ito'y para lang we start with an easy part, and then going to complex or difficult side of the competencies na ibibigay natin sa ating mga bata. So it could be aligned also on how we teach our learners for competency, not where we will just be looking at solo framework in an assessment perspective, but it could also be part of the process. So mismong procedure natin when we teach our lesson. You start with easy, yung hindi mo na nila alam, probably yung sabi ni ma'am, yung unstructured muna sila. And then little by little, moving to the unistructural. So pasimple, palinear na mga alam ng bata, yung mga obvious na mga learning. And then going to the complex and multi-structure this time. And then of course, sa dulo, yung adaptation sa real life situation. Kung paano natin ito magagamit sa totoong buhay. And yung sinasabi natin, magkaroon sila ng deep learning. So, which is, ito po ang gusto natin sa ating mga bata. So, assessment-wise, we will craft our tools in this manner, but then eventually, let's look at this other side of the framework as our framework on how to teach our learners. So, tingnan natin sa ganong perspective din. Maganda siya, habang ako'y nagbabasa about solo framework, maganda siya maging basis natin sa pagbibigay ng ating mga lesson, structured that way, na mula sa simple hanggang sa complicated and application of life situation competency ay ito po ay magagawa natin yan. So again, sa ating mga ways forward, I know Sir Resty have already have this metrics sa ating mga next steps na. So having this input today, initial lang po to, but then yung deep na input or processing na gagawin ay nasa ating mga learning area supervisors natin. And this will happen in a separate training or a session with your team per learning area. So we will be looking forward also the kinder to have part of this team. Yung senior high school, maybe we can have all of them to be part of this training and building this capacity on assessment development based on solo framework. So again, my big dream for our division to align our activities, our technical assistance to the field, and then eventually to have our learners be able to benefit our activities, our project dito sa SDO Mandaluyong. So hopefully, our performance in this mid-year that will happen ngayong March na po, and then by by June, ang ating exit assessment naman ng LAMP, and pag tayo pinapili sa PISA, we are all ready. Ready po tayo lahat. Okay? So congratulations, Sir Resty, for spearheading this activity. Of course, sa lahat ng ating supervisors, ng learning area supervisor natin. Ma'am Duran, thank you so much for your technical assistance to us. I know hindi ito lang, hindi ito yung, kumbaga, this is just a start of our interfacing. Thank you so much and good day, everyone. Thank you, teachers, for your attendance.
Thank you very much, Mama Lynn. And please do stay on the link po, no? And may we invite again Mrs. Bernadette Sidaran and of course our SDS, Ma'am Romela M. Cruz and Ma'am Aline. And of course, our Resty to please have join us to have a photo op para naman po we could have a souvenir of today's event. Yan, hintayin lang po natin, may pasok sa ating frame ang ating mga dear officials and with Ma'am Daran, Ma'am Romel, hello po ma'am. Ayan, so siguro one photo op po. Taking picture in 3, 2, 1. One more, 3, 2, 1. Maraming salamat po for gracing with us.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Daran. Salamat sa oras.
Thank you din
Nakuha
po.
na namin yung oras mo sobra. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much for the help.
To share, ayun po, maraming salamat po. And to share with us kung gaano po ka-grateful ang SDO Mandaluyong, none other than our very fresh and newly fully fledged SDS, none other than our indefatigable SDS for SDO Mandaluyong, Dr. Remela M. Cruz.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Dorothy. Salamat sa inyo. From the bottom of my heart, I am very grateful and proud to all of you. Congratulations. We are rising to the top because of everybody. Congratulations, CID, Ma'am Aline, Sir Resty, and to all PSDS, EPS, and other officials of CID. Saludo po ako sa inyo. Ang gagaling. Thank you very much and congratulations. Ma'am Daran, salamat po sa time. Salamat po sa time nyo. Yung time na binibigay mo sa Mandaluyong, this will lead to us to a road to excellence. Thank you very much. And then to all teachers who are in this link, ilan tayo sa link ngayon, Dorothy? Ilang teachers ang kasama natin ngayon? Dorothy, ilang teachers? Marami ba tayong
Around
kasamang
around
teachers?
around 300 ma'am, nasa 300 po kanina yung nakita
Wow,
ko.
wow. 300 teachers, 300 souls. They are the great heroes of this pandemic. Let us give them a big round of applause to all our teachers who are in this link. 300 teachers. Thank you very much for giving your attention, energy, effort, time, everything to this capability training. Remember, because of the love, genuine love of your supervisor, Sir Resty, the commitment of the entire CID under the leadership of Ma'am Aline, we are now designing the best webinar for all of you. This is our gift to you. We do hope that the way how we treat you, the way how we capacitate to you, you will be doing the same thing to your learners. This is amplifying the development of assessment and performance task skills. Meaning to say, sa pamamagitan ng natutuhan nyo ngayon na mga skills sa pag-assess at pag-evaluate kung paano ang bata sumasagot, kung paano ang bata nagre-respond, ito ay magiging manifestation of justice. Manifestation of justice on the part of our students. Dahil sa natutuhan ninyo, mas may improve ninyo kung paano gigrade ng ating mga bata. Kung paano i-assess at i-evaluate ang mga bata. So inaasahan ko na ang natutuhan nyo ngayon ay pakikinabangan ng mga bata. Sa lahat po ng ating ina-attend ng seminar, palagi po nating ipadadama sa bata kung ano po ang pagbabago sa ating isip, sa ating damdamin, sa ating mga gagawin. Dapat po'y mararamdaman ng mga batang ating tinuturuan, mga gurong ating kasama, ng ating mga natututuhan araw-araw. Ito ay nagdudulot ng mabuting bagay, mabuting pangyayari, mabuting sitwasyon, mas magandang buhay, mas masayang pag-aaral, mas masayang pagtuturo, mas masayang pagkatuto, mas maraming bata ang maligaya sa pag-aaral. Dahil sa mga natuklasan ninyong bagong assessment, bagong tool para makita ang development ng kanilang performance task, ng kanilang skills. At ito ay nasa inyo ng mga kamay bilang guro. Muli, tingnan natin ang mga natutuhan natin, pagnilaya natin, saan natin ito gagamitin. Magiging maligaya ba ang ating mga bata? Magiging maligaya ba ang ating kapwa guro? Magiging okay ba lalo tayo sa ating mga punong guro? Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Ang lahat ng ito ay magandang biyayang ibinibigay namin sa inyo na ibabalik nyo po sa ating mga bata, sa ating mga batang mandunong, walang may iwan, kabahagi ng bilang. Again, congratulations to CID, Ma'am Aline, Sir Resty, sa lahat ng PSDS, EPS, sa kanilang presidente, Sir Cesar Nachor, Sir Gili Canao, sa lahat ng mga punong guro na sumusuporta dito, maraming pong salamat sa inyong mahusay na paglilingkod. Ma'am Daran, we will be looking forward to have another activity with you as our resource speaker. Congratulations po sa ating lahat and more power. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you very much, ayan, Dr. Romela M. Cruz, for very inspiring closing remarks. Sabi nga po natin, no, tayo man ay gagamit, solo framework man ang ating gamitin, for sure, ang Mandaluyong kabahagi ng bilang, hindi nag-iisa. We will never be alone kahit solo framework pang gamitin natin. And of course, dear, please do not forget to have your attendance. It's bit.ly/adapts2022. And of course, do not forget to answer our Kwame for today's event, which is bit.ly/Kwame-adapts, all caps po yan, 2022. Please do copy and share this link po para masagutan po ng iba pang mga kasamahan natin teachers. If you wanted to go back into some of the salient points of the presentation for today. Although this is live, I think this will be available for our teachers to review and go back para mas namnamin pa natin and have a clear understanding of how each of the stages of the solo framework could help our learners as well. And of course, hindi po natatapos dito ang ating event. This could only be just an onboarding of what's next or what's about to happen in the next few days. On a separate memorandum po, we will be announcing a breakout session for our writers. The list of the selected writers and validators will be announced as well on that separate memorandum. So please stay tuned and wait for further announcements because SDO Mandaluyong is now going solo. Ayan. Maganda po handa tayo not only for the mid-year and exit assessment for LAMP but also for PISA. Gaya nga po ng sabi kanina ni Ma'am Aline, we are prepared kahit anong ibigay sa atin because SDO Mandaluyong talaga is ensuring that we are capacitated and we are ready for any assessment that will come our way. Ayan, thank you very much again, Sir Resty, for spearheading this event and inviting us as well. And of course, Ma'am Daran, for gracing us her very precious time. Nakulitan po ng mga schedules niya, but she gave way and prioritized Mandaluyong City. And that's for today. Maraming salamat po. And we will see you again on the next sessions for our Selo framework. Don't forget for your attendance and your comment, nandito po yung link natin. That's it for now. This is Dorothy Grace Reyes signing off for Solo Framework.